At the mouth of the Guayas River lies the city of Guayaquil. It is the economic capital of Ecuador, with 2.5 million inhabitants. Guayaquil is known for its historic center, colonial churches, and a must-see tourist attraction, the Iguana Park. But it's all a facade. Because just like the rest of the country, the city has fallen into the hands of drug traffickers.
Acaban de asesinar a una persona aquí a unos 5 minutos. Mira. Sí, se han quedado. Es un cadáver.
Tomas is a reporter. He just received this message from a fellow journalist.
Al parecer esto es en las afueras de una entidad pública. Más arriba, mira, ahí está la policía.
A shooting has taken place in broad daylight in the middle of the street, killing one person. The first journalists are already at the scene, even though the police are only just beginning to cordon off the area.
Esa escena que está allá, la escena que ves al fondo, es una escena cotidiana en Guayaquil, una de las ciudades más peligrosas del mundo.
In 2023, there were 2,500 homicides in Guayaquil, which equates to 7 per day. People are being killed in the streets, and it no longer shocks anyone.
Y esto es de todos los días. Esto es de todos los días ver un cadáver, muertos, asaltos, secuestros. Vivimos vacunados, de todo vivimos en esta ciudad. Esto se hace por bandas organizadas. Matanza aquí, matanza allá, matanza allá. No sé qué tenemos que hacer los ecuatorianos. Yo creo que todos tenemos que ya blindarnos con armas también para defendernos.
Murders have become so frequent in Guayaquil that Tomas's colleague is blasé about them.
Hubo un momento en que, de acuerdo al turno, tú cogías 5, 7, 8 muertos en algunos casos y venían más y sabes que ya ahí nomás ya no entran.
¿Dónde los pongo?
¿Dónde los reporto? ¿Dónde? Sí, pues ya no había lugar donde
ubicarlos en la noticia.
Claro. Ese punto me gusta mucho. Con las características de lo que está sucediendo en ese momento, ¿no?
Ya, ¿y qué se sabe de los delincuentes? Se habla de que una vez que dejaron ese carro abandonado, se subieron a otro.
Murders now seem like a trivial affair in Guayaquil because in the last 5 years, Ecuador has become the most dangerous state in Latin America. Ecuador is a small country situated between Colombia and Peru. A few years ago, it was a tranquil haven. Tourists from all over the world came to visit its breathtaking landscapes. Nestled between the Andes and the Amazon rainforest, Ecuador used to be one of the most peaceful countries in Latin America. But after a severe economic crisis and budget cuts on the justice and security systems,
sin armamento, sin equipamiento, no podemos ser nadie acá.
Ecuador fell into the hands of drug traffickers. The country has in fact become the world's leading platform for drug exports to Europe and the United States. More than 220 tons of cocaine were seized in 2023. 22 gangs run by Mexican, Colombian, and Albanian drug cartels are spreading terror throughout the country. Kidnappings, torture, and ransom bus robberies. And execution-style murders. The gangs are engaged in a ruthless turf war to take control of the drug trade.
Ellos degollan, cortan cabezas, cortan miembros del cuerpo y dejan arrojados en un canal.
7,600 homicides in a year. That's one death every few hours. It all starts in the prisons. They are the sites of massacres and riots. Prison guards are taken hostage and executed.
Por favor, señor presidente, ayúdenos.
To demonstrate the extent of their power, the gangs even attacked national television journalists live on air. But to combat the gangs, in November 2023, the Ecuadorians elected a new leader. 35-year-old Daniel Noboa, heir to the largest fortune in Ecuador, became the youngest ever president-elect of the republic. He has declared war on the criminal groups and has granted full power to the police and the army.
Nosotros no vamos a negociar con terroristas, ni descansaremos hasta devolverle la paz a todos los ecuatorianos.
To fulfill this promise, he has deployed 22,000 military personnel and 60,000 police officers on the ground to face 50,000 gang members, to combat criminals in the Amazon rainforest. The army has enlisted the help of elite soldiers known as the Jungle Demons. Journey into the most violent country in Latin America, where gangs are trying to replace the state. This morning, we have a meeting in a secure, hidden location in the middle of a freight zone. A police unit is getting ready to conduct a raid.
Vamos a hacer dos equipos. Hidalgo, mi persona, nos vamos a hacer encargar la inspección subacuática. El equipo de Ruiz se va a encargar de la inspección a bordo.
Sergeant Alexander has completed 21 years service as an operational diver. He is part of a special mobile anti-drugs unit, and his preferred area of investigation is the port of Guayaquil. There are thousands of containers waiting to be loaded. 80% of the country's exports travel through here, among which there are enormous quantities of cocaine. Most of the time, the drugs are hidden in shipments of bananas, the emblematic fruit of Ecuador. It's a popular commodity for traffickers due to the sheer volume of shipments. 6.5 million tons of bananas are exported to Europe and the United States every year. This Bahamian cargo ship is headed to London and Rotterdam. It is transporting bananas, so it will be thoroughly inspected. According to the police, the crew has not been warned of the inspection. Usually, drug traffickers have accomplices near the port authorities and on board the ships.
Yes, certification.
Les trafiquants utilisent ce genre de bateau à l'insu des transporteurs, vous le savez?
Yeah, maybe.
Et vous connaissez des gens à qui c'est déjà arrivé?
I heard stories, but with my personal, I haven't been. Yeah.
The ship will be inspected all over, from the deck to the hold. The police are on the lookout for any suspicious details.
¿Qué busco?
Caletas, busco caletas. En muchas partes pueden guardar oculta la droga.
Nothing on this side, but the search continues. Sergeant Alexander sends in the divers.
Se entran por el lado de estribor, bajan a debe ser unos 15 pies.
The traffickers sometimes hide drugs underneath the ship's hull and near the propellers.
Hemos encontrado torpedos o si no cosas rectangulares en las cuales dentro de esas están ingresadas sustancias sujetas a fiscalización.
The ports may have turned into drug trafficking hubs, but the contamination of the cargo usually takes place further upstream, before the containers are loaded. Contamination also occurs at the hands of pirates who storm the ships or who use handcrafted submarines. According to the police, more than 220 metric tons of cocaine destined for North America and Europe were seized in 2023. A €12 billion loss in revenue for the cartels. But that's only a drop in the bucket for these drug lords who have become real economic giants. With this money, the cartels have divided Guayaquil, relying on 22 gangs that are engaged in a turf war. In just a few years, the city has turned into a deadly area for the residents. The police now depend on the 2,000 cameras stationed throughout the city to intervene as quickly as possible. Major Juan Marcos, director of this surveillance center, has just witnessed someone being kidnapped off the street, a method that's becoming more and more widespread amongst the gangs.
Ah, este está en vivo. Ya, este caso del secuestro ahorita es en vivo, es decir, es en este momento. ¿Secuestro? Ah, sí. En este momento esto es en vivo, aquí podemos ver ya la unidad y los policías que están en el sitio.
To identify the attackers, he watches the footage again. 4 men confront a helmeted motorcyclist and violently snatch his phone before dragging him away. Two of the kidnappers then leave on motorbikes. Kidnappings happen every day in Ecuador. It has even become a specialty of the cartels. To fight against these criminals, the country is now deploying its best men on the ground.
Que no se nos aparezcan unas motos, que ojo los 360. Esa unidad queda de apoyo y con mi compañero salimos, ¿ok?
This morning, Lieutenant Colonel Roberto Santamaria is preparing an operation to arrest a man suspected of multiple kidnappings. A former Special Forces officer, this senior officer now manages a territory of 450,000 residents dominated by 3 gangs who each have their own signature kill method.
Por ejemplo, los tiguerones disparan 3 tiros aquí a la cabeza. Son letales, 3 tiros a la cabeza y los dejan muertos. Nosotros cuando vemos una persona muerta bajo esa característica, sabemos de que es de la organización Los Tiguerones. Los fatales, ellos vuelta utilizan un poco más del salvajismo. Ellos degollan, cortan cabezas, cortan miembros del cuerpo y dejan arrojados en un canal. ¿Ya? Y mientras que los águilas tienen varios impactos por el cuerpo. Entonces quiere decir de que se acercan a la víctima y le disparan por todos lados. Entonces cada uno tiene una escuela.
These ultra-violent methods were inherited from the Mexican cartels. The gangs have turned into armies.
Vamos a ver unas estructuras terroristas que se encuentran en este sector. Es el lugar más violento del Ecuador en el que vamos a operar.
Last year, there were 566 drug trafficking-related deaths here. Each intervention is risky.
Nosotros siempre trabajamos bajo el peor escenario. Todas las operaciones en este distrito son consideradas operaciones de guerra. Muchas de las personas que se encuentran aquí, en estos lugares, tienen radios de comunicación. Entonces ustedes pueden ver de que ellos sí escucharon. Entonces eso ya es una alerta ya. Son estos gritos que hacen, son porque ya comienzan a dar información de que ya estamos ingresando.
The colonel plans to act as quickly as possible to arrest the kidnapper.
Muchas de las veces nos han arrojado dinamita, nos lanzan cualquier tipo de artefacto explosivo. Entonces nosotros lo que hacemos es justamente entrar con violencia inmediata para dominarlos mientras ellos pretenden tener una reacción hacia nosotros.
They arrive at the target, a house that the criminals are trying to pass off as a drug rehabilitation center. The colonel wants to arrest the manager, who is suspected of kidnapping people. Against the brutality of the attack, everyone drops to the ground.
¿Qué pasa?
No sé qué pasa.
The manager's wife pretends not to understand anything. All the occupants are searched. The police officers have found the man they were looking for. Even though we are filming, they do not hesitate to mishandle him. A complaint had already been filed against him for human kidnapping. But his wife defends him and denies everything.
No somos nada malos, aquí nosotros vivimos, nosotros ayudamos a los que consumen y nadie es dañado, nadie es nada malo, de mafias, de cosas malas no somos.
The police officers take the suspect away, but his wife has no intention of letting him leave.
No se lo lleve si no es nada malo, no se lo lleve si no está haciendo nada malo. No, mi esposo se lo van a llevar ustedes. ¿Por qué se lo van a llevar?
Vamos saliendo, salimos.
The colonel gives the order to leave the sector. The situation risks getting a lot worse if heavily armed traffickers arrive. But something unexpected is about to happen right in front of us. In the background, a man in a green t-shirt appears to be forcibly restrained by other men. He manages to free himself. The others let him go because the police are still there. He pretends to walk calmly towards the street corner before running to the police.
Ayuda, me tenía secuestrado. Ella me tenía secuestrado, ayuda.
Ya, métete ahí.
Ella, ¿cómo queda la embarazada de la clínica? Ya. Es mentiroso, loco.
Ya te fuiste de aquí, te fuiste.
Me tenían secuestrado ellos allá, todo.
Since the beginning of the year, there have already been 210 kidnapping cases recorded in this area of Guayaquil.
Son lugares donde retienen a personas en contra de su voluntad, en este caso para pedir un rescate a sus familiares.
The searches continue. This time, the investigators are looking for a dangerous drug trafficker.
¿Dónde está tu hermano, tío?
Bueno, ellos no viven aquí. Aquí solo vivo con mi mamá y mi sobrino.
However, the police officers discover a luxurious suite with a bathroom that stands out in this poor neighborhood. There are also figurines representing criminal gangs and the remnants of a ritual that don't go unnoticed.
Se llama altar de la muerte. Esto que ellos prenden, más todos estos simbolismos hacen que ellos se protejan justamente de la muerte cuando ellos están operando.
The killers leave offerings here before committing their crimes.
Hacen un tema de brujería.
The search continues. The police officer makes another interesting discovery. On this tablet, there are pictures of the most powerful gang in Ecuador.
Es de la organización Los Choneros.
No, eso es imagen del Facebook nomás.
Por eso, yo sé que es del Facebook. Somos choneros.
No va a ver si todo el mundo sube cosas en el Facebook así, no va a ver.
Vamos, salimos.
The young man is cleared, but the colonel still gives him a warning.
Pórtate bien, chucha. No te portes mal. Chucha, no caigas en desgracia. Ok, ya nos vemos.
The special unit's operation is finished. The outcome: 3 perpetrators. The first arrested for kidnapping, the second in red for holding up bus passengers with this revolver, and the third arrested for drug trafficking with around 100 bags of marijuana. Daniel Noboa's repressive policies demand that good results are publicized. So after each arrest, a press conference is called. With their aggressive raids, the colonel claims to have reduced criminal activity in his sector by 40%. Making the streets more secure is one thing, But the biggest challenge of all is regaining control of the prisons, which are often the scene of violent riots. So, President Noboa has made it a priority.
Del gobierno hemos emprendido acciones que nos permitan recuperar el control de los centros de privación de libertad que se ha perdido en los últimos años.
To achieve this, he decided to send in the army. We got permission to enter La Roca, considered to be the most violent prison in the country. There are 12,000 people detained here. To monitor them properly, security is at its maximum. When we arrive, approximately 100 soldiers and police officers are conducting a search of the prison. Everyone has to go through a thorough security check, and bulletproof vests must be worn.
De este lado así, frente, sin moverse hasta que pase la barra, ¿ok?
There are several security gates and even a scanner. The door opens onto an inner courtyard where army tanks are stationed in case of a possible mutiny.
Él es el coordinador de Máxima. Con él vamos a hacer el recorrido. Vamos.
We discover 100 prisoners lying on the ground, monitored by 30 armed soldiers.
Ahorita hemos sufrido una intervención de parte de militares y policía para hacer control de armas, explosivos.
These men are considered the most dangerous criminals in the country.
Asesinato, tráfico ilegal de sustancias.
These men belong to 22 different gangs. Most are from Los Choneros and Los Lobos, but there are also men from Los Tigres, Los Tiburones, and Los Lagartos, all identifiable from their tattoos. These gangs are at war with one another. But since the army took over, they have been forced to coexist, subject to the same regime. One prisoner tries to gesture the sign from his gang, Los Lobos, but he quickly changes his mind. To regain control, the army regularly searches the cells. Mattresses are overturned, furniture and partitions are broken. Everything has just been turned upside down by the soldiers. A few weeks ago, the soldiers found weapons, explosives, mobile phones, and drugs in here. The final cell at the end of the corridor belonged to the country's public enemy number one.
Aquí estaba el PPL José Macías Villagrán, alias Fito. Él vino trasladado hace mucho tiempo atrás de La Roca. Él estuvo aquí recluido hasta inicios de enero que se produjo la fuga.
It was from inside this cell that Fito, the leader of around 8,000 men, conducted his operations and assassinations. On the ceiling is a hand-painted fresco with a turtle as its emblem, signaling his allegiance to the Mexican Sinaloa cartel. This is what his cell looked like prior to his escape. There was a painting of himself, lacquered paint, and a walk-in shower. A very comfortable setup that even allowed the criminal, who had been sentenced to 34 years in prison for murder and drug trafficking, to record a few clips for a music video in his honor. The song is entitled The Lion's Ballad. In the song, posted on YouTube, his daughter sings his praises. At the time of its release, the video was seen as a provocation and a humiliation against the authorities. But how did Fito escape?
En realidad, al igual que el resto de PPLs están bajo custodia y al día siguiente, cuando ya hubo la contabilización de los PPLs, que normalmente ocurre 7 de la mañana a 7 de la noche, ya se detectó que faltaba y se siguió el protocolo de alerta.
The visit is over. They order us to leave the premises quickly. We are escorted out of the maximum security area. But despite a courteous goodbye, to officially leave the prison, we are forced to negotiate with the management team who are holding our passports. The prison directors are asking for money. $1,000, which will be used to bribe the intermediate ranks, each one taking a cut. It's an example of the widespread corruption plaguing the country. All over Ecuador, drug traffickers have succeeded in bribing even the highest levels of state. But since Daniel Noboa's arrival to power, extensive anti-corruption plans have been established.
Existe narcoterrorismo en funcionarios públicos, los cuales lo estamos limpiando.
Operation Metastasis and the Purge case led to the fall of approximately 50 dignitaries. Among them were prosecutors, prison directors, high-ranking police officers, a chief of military staff.
La operación se deriva del caso Metástasis y entre los aprehendidos consta la expresidenta de la Corte Provincial de Justicia de Guayas, Fabiola G.
And finally, a member of parliament who the police caught in possession of large bundles of cash, lots of jewelry, luxury watches, and dozens of mobile phones. Everyday life across the country was shaken, and the president even imposed a curfew. So now, residents looking for an escape only have a few hours to enjoy themselves. In this salsa club, dance aficionados try to forget the constant violence and fear raging through the country.
Ahorita el toque queda comienza a partir de las 12 de la noche hasta las 5.
For the last 2 months, these two young women were too afraid to leave their homes.
No podíamos salir, habían muchas muertes.
Para distraerse, olvidarse un poco de todo lo que está pasando, salir a disfrutar un poco.
Nos encanta la música, la salsa.
La salsa, me encanta.
Nos encanta la salsa.
Y a partir de cierta hora sí ya empiezan a hacer...
Ya comienza la policía, que ya retírense.
Ya ahorita ya cierran,
ya
son las 12.
Pero estamos esperando el chito.
¡Que viva la salsa y que viva Guayaquil!
The curfew may force citizens to go home, but crime doesn't stop after midnight. On the other side of the Guayas River, in the city of Duran, a significant police operation is about to get underway.
Van a hacer un operativo de antinarcóticos en una hacienda como en la periferia de Durán, una zona muy conflictiva, ¿no? Como dominada por el narco.
We meet with Tomás again, the reporter who covers the settling of scores between rival gangs.
Hay un helicóptero arriba, mira, hay un helicóptero.
Son zonas como dominadas por estas bandas criminales y me sorprende mucho que la policía venga para acá. Entonces,
The area is completely sealed off. We have to show our IDs.
¿Nos bajamos? Sí.
Buenas noches.
Hola, ¿cómo están?
Buenas noches.
¿Pasaporte? ¿Pasaporte?
Sí.
¿Sí? ¿Pasaporte?
Sí.
Ok, denme.
Confirme, jefe, ¿qué pasa?
Gracias.
Approximately 100 police officers, supported by anti-drugs units and intelligence agents, are preparing to search the houses belonging to members of Los Choneros, the most dangerous and powerful gang in South America, led by Fito.
Buenas noches.
Registro policial, estamos interviniendo aquí esta ciudad.
This three-story house is one of the police targets. It is allegedly being used to store drugs. Inside, there are 2 men and 1 woman who could be members of the gang. There is also a child. Drug traffickers often hide drugs, explosives, and weapons in the most unexpected locations. The search is ruthless, even inside the child's room. There's no room for emotion in the war against organized crime. On his side, the reporter attempts to gather a few reactions from the neighbors.
Somos periodistas. Le quiero preguntar qué opina usted de esos operativos que está haciendo. No puede hablar. Ok. Tiene miedo la gente, ¿eh? Mucho miedo. Me llamó la atención que me dicen, stop, no, porque si yo hablo, me matan. Y luego, gracias, me voy.
Even today, 4 people were killed in this neighborhood. The men we were filming were arrested, and several weapons and a load of cocaine were found in another house. But why are drug traffickers so interested in the city of Durán? It's because it's positioned in an ultra-strategic location a mere stone's throw from the famous port city of Guayaquil. The city offers the necessary access for the cartels to export their goods. The traffickers store their drugs inside these huts on stilts before transporting them via fishing boats or speedboats to the port. Durán is extremely dangerous because it's entirely controlled by gangs.
Tengamos cuidado porque en estas casitas se esconden bandas de matones. Se dedican a custodiar o a cuidar esas tierras, ¿no?
Tomás was right. Our drone is barely out before a motorbike approaches, with 2 men on board watching us.
Un poco complicado por aquí el sector. Ya empiezan las motos a comunicarle a alguien que estamos aquí, entonces no es muy seguro para nosotros. Que le pueden comprar el vehículo, que nos puedan hacer algo nosotros. Las bandas son como impredecibles, ¿no? Así que, let's go, nos vamos.
For years, corrupt officials turned a blind eye to the dominance of the criminal organizations in the city. But a year ago, one man decided to resist the trend and stand up against the mafia. 39-year-old Luis Chonillo was elected mayor of Durán in May 2023. We've been wanting to meet him. But since he got elected, the city hall has become a fortified camp. There are police officers and security agents all over the place. What's more, the mayor himself is nowhere to be seen, and rightly so. Since his inauguration, he has escaped 9 attacks on his life.
Resulta increíble que hasta la fecha, 10 meses desde su posesión, el alcalde todavía no pueda conocer su despacho.
Consequently, the mayor is forced to govern remotely. To meet him, we had to wait until his security team approved our request and sent us the signal. The meeting was set up in a secret location, which was only revealed to us at the last moment. The mayor is escorted into a building where the bomb disposal service is carried out. Our phones must be switched off.
Por favor, no puede ingresar. Sí.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, hola, Jérôme. Ça, c'est votre pare-balles et votre casque?
Este es el casco después del día del atentado, que fue el 15 de mayo. Yo venía con 2 policías, ¿no? Y uno fallece justamente por un impacto de bala.
Despite the risks, Luis Chonillo has decided to stand firm against the gangs and continue his duties as mayor.
Existe una causa. Si no lo hago yo, si no estoy aquí, ¿quién? O sea, si no enfrento esto, si no enfrento este miedo, ¿quién lo va a hacer? ¿Y en manos de quién queda? Eso es mi mayor preocupación. Durán es un foco, es un epicentro de todo lo que viene pasando en el país.
Chonillo is thus forced to stay in hiding, constantly on the move. He wants to show us the reality of his city, a city that the gangs would like to keep in poverty, as that is the catalyst for organized crime. Even so, the mayor is fighting to improve the living conditions for the residents. They are redoing the roads, installing water pipes, and providing electricity where previously there was none.
Este es el centro de Durán, ¿no? Aquí donde vemos están las personas, es el comercio, ve locales que están cerrados, algunas han migrado, producto de la delincuencia. Es una ciudad en guerra.
The mayor is eager for us to drive past City Hall again, but this time, there's no question of stopping.
Qu'est-ce que ça vous fait de passer devant alors que vous devriez y être?
Impotencia. Impotencia, porque las cosas serían distintas completamente si yo estuviera aquí.
The convoy reaches the fateful junction. The mayor thought that he was going to die here less than a year ago.
Aquí fue el atentado.
92 bullet holes were found on his car. 3 people died in the attack.
El Golfo avanza.
Following the attack, Chonillo decided to move his wife and his 4-year-old son to safety in the United States. They call each other every day.
Hola.
Vous comprenez pourquoi est-ce qu'il veut absolument rester comme maire de Durán?
Sí, lo apoyo porque sé que la recompensa siempre será más grande que el sacrificio que hace él o nosotros como familia.
À quel point est-ce qu'il vous manque votre mari?
Mucho. O sea, y también a mi hijo, siempre pienso en él, pero nada, nos encomendamos a Dios de que le dé fuerza y que no le pase nunca nada.
Nos toca a nosotros el sacrificio hasta que todo esto quede bien encaminado. Ese es mi gran objetivo, dejar todo esto encaminado, para bien.
Merci mille fois,
a ustedes espero que les haya servido mucho.
A few days later, 3 mayors were killed in Ecuador by hitmen. One of the victims was Brigitte Garcia, a 27-year-old government-elect who was found dead in her car. The day after our meeting with Luis Chonillo, Tomás receives a concerning phone call from the police. A vehicle similar to ours has been targeted.
Mira esta foto. Esto es cerca del puerto de Guayaquil, donde estuvimos filmando ayer. Fue baleado. Se habla de unos 90 impactos, pero dicen que son 200. Y se parece al vehículo en el que nos transportamos nosotros. Mismo color, mismo modelo. En Guayaquil nunca se sabe, es incierto completamente. Y esto evidentemente lo demuestra, ¿no?
We took that as a warning. Just like government officials, judges also have to demonstrate significant courage against this violence to combat the traffickers. A few kilometers north of Guayaquil lies the chic neighborhood of San Borondón. It's the most exclusive district in Ecuador. The country's wealthiest citizens are all grouped together in this mini South American Miami. Even President Noboa's extremely wealthy family lives here. 33-year-old Heidi lives here with her parents.
A Oso y a Liam, porque no es posible que el perro nuevo salga y mis perros de siempre no salgan.
She is a judge at a courthouse in Guayaquil. The young woman is constantly receiving death threats for imprisoning murderers and traffickers. A few months ago, Heidi received a very clear threat from a Mexican cartel.
Este comunicado va dirigido para la jueza Heidi Borja, quien se cree muy incorruptible. Si no se alinea, va a sufrir las consecuencias.
In the letter, the drug traffickers also threatened those close to her.
Piénsalo bien con los próximos casos. Ya te mandaremos algo. No hagas que sufra tu familia. Sabemos que tu hermana está en Canadá, tus padres y tu hermano sabemos dónde parqueas, sabemos cuál es el carro de tu secretario y ayudante, y Dios también pagará las consecuencias si sigues así.
Judges are frequently targeted by criminal groups. So, for the last 16 months, the young woman has been under reinforced police protection.
Mi celular, acá está. La laptop.
Sí, acá está.
Yeah.
2 elite police officers escort her everywhere.
Cada vez que asesinan a un juez o a un fiscal, por supuesto que va a inferir pánico o miedo, porque el siguiente puede ser otro.
2 months ago, one gang wanted to seize her place of work, the court of Guayaquil. The attack was stopped by security guards from the parking lot of the shopping center located just opposite. But they were killed.
Mira, entraron por ahí, vieron a los guardias de seguridad, los asesinaron y luego continuaron, dispararon con todos los carros. El punto de ataque era prácticamente la función judicial, pero nosotros ya habíamos evacuado el edificio aproximadamente 45 minutos antes que ellos lleguen.
Since then, security at the courthouse has been reinforced.
Buen día, chicos, buen día. Buen día, chicos.
For Heidi, magistracy is a sacred vocation, a life devoted to the fight against organized crime. But they are lacking resources. The Ecuadorian justice system is overwhelmed.
Vamos a la siguiente.
5 years ago, to tackle budget cuts, the government of the time even decided to get rid of the Ministry of Justice.
Puedo en este momento estanciando un delito por robo y al mismo tiempo puedo luego estar tramitando una contravención de tránsito. Entonces, esas son las cosas que le estamos pidiendo al sistema porque robo, tránsito, ¿qué es esto? Asesinato. Entonces, todas estas cosas hasta cierto punto no nos ayudan a mantener una justicia especializada.
Heidi has a packed schedule.
Hola, buen día.
She has 3 criminal hearings arranged for this morning.
Buen día, soy la abogada Heidi Borja Hernández. Bienvenidos, antiguamente conocido como el Zonal.
The hearing takes place via video conference. This has become the new norm to avoid the risk of escapes during prisoner transfers.
Señor Tyron, me indica si me puede escuchar o tiene problemas con el audio, porque es esencial que usted me escuche.
This man is accused of drug possession. Normally, he would risk 5 to 7 years in prison. But Heidi is going to offer him a reduced sentence if he pleads guilty.
Según esta negociación que consta en el acta, usted ha aceptado 24 meses como pena privativa de libertad.
These reduced sentencing procedures allow Ecuador to free up the prisons and the courts slightly.
Usted admite los hechos por los cuales Fiscalía la acusa en esta audiencia: posesión y almacenamiento de droga con la intención de tráfico. Muchas gracias.
Small-time dealers, thieves, armed robbers, or hitmen. Since the declaration of the state of emergency in January 2024, 16,000 arrests have already taken place. but drug trafficking continues to plague a significant part of the country. Like the Amazon rainforest, which covers 50% of Ecuador, this impenetrable jungle is the main import route for cocaine stemming from Colombia or Peru. To control the territory, the Army has deployed an elite unit unlike any other in the world. We head to Pastaza province, to the north of Morona, Santiago. There we meet with the Iwia soldiers who are known as jungle demons. They are native Indians from the Shuar, Quechua, and Waorani communities.
Nosotros ya nacimos dentro de la selva, en nuestra Amazonía, en nuestra casa.
Their mission is to take down illegal drug laboratories and to combat guerrillas. They are also tasked with combating the illegal mines that contaminate the forest and the rivers. But since the declaration of the state of emergency, the government has also entrusted them to take over the Amazonian prisons, including the Archidona prison. We are welcomed in a very official manner by the commander of the troops. The director of the prison, who now no longer has any power, is alongside him in civilian clothes to put on a good show. Members of the National Police and an unarmed prison guard are also present.
Reciban un saludo cordial de las gloriosas Fuerzas Armadas del Ecuador, la Policía Nacional y los agentes de seguridad penitenciaria, el señor director del Centro de Privación de Libertad número 1, Napo. Sean bienvenidos.
"423 men and 58 women are imprisoned here, with an average of 17 inmates per cell.
Son peligrosos, han sido sentenciados por la justicia ecuatoriana y sentenciados para 25, 30 hasta 40 años de cárcel. Piso, 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 piso.
Ever since the Army took control of the prison, the cooks are treated like prisoners. They are thoroughly searched.
Personal de la cocina, manos contra la pared, quitarse las botas. Avanzar.
There are high security procedures in place for meals.
¡Pabellón! ¡En silencio, atenderse! ¡Todos al piso! ¡Asegure el área!
During the most recent riots in this prison, the guards were held hostage for 7 days before they were freed by the Army.
Celda 1 y 2, levantarse y encolumnarse. Se enumera y agradece.
The bowls can now be handed out.
1, gracias a Dios. 2, gracias a Dios.
3, gracias a Dios.
The soldiers from the Jungle Brigade have created a ritual. The prisoners have to recite a prayer.
Gracias, Señor. Gracias, Señor. El pan de cada día. Por el pan de cada día. Bendice los alimentos que me voy a servir. Bendice los alimentos que me voy a servir.
The prisoners don't only thank God, they also thank the authorities for putting an end to the unrest.
Bendice estos alimentos que vamos a consumir hoy.
Bendice estos alimentos que vamos a consumir hoy.
Buen provecho. Gracias.
Taking back control of the prisons has allegedly made it possible to reduce insecurity in the towns by 80%. But this new mission has significantly impacted the Army's manpower. So the jungle demons are constantly in search of new recruits. At their headquarters, a huge ceremony has been planned for this morning. 200 indigenous soldiers are dressed in their traditional costumes. At the end of their spears sits a trophy, the tsansa, a shrunken head. They are about to welcome a new recruit, but before that, he needs to be freed of any evil spirits. The regiment's shaman takes care of this, along with 2 other Shuar warriors. The healer has brought all his paraphernalia with him.
Hacemos collares, hacemos de esta de una planta. Igual los huesos, son huesos de sajilo.
On his head, he wears the fur of a totem animal, which can be conducive to meditation.
El oso perezoso.
Inside an anaconda skin, he stores a magic potion.
En esta botella está el trago, el ajo y la ruda. Esto es para poder curar a un niño. Para mal aire y también para dolor de la cabeza. Uno se absorbe.
The cleansing of the new recruit can begin.
Bienvenidos a la mejor escuela del mundo, Iria Sánchez Upay, Ecuador!
Armed with their spears, the 2 other soldiers execute a warrior's salute. According to their beliefs, the young recruit is leaving civilization behind to enter into the jungle world and become an Iwia soldier, half man, half animal. This unit, like all other forces in Ecuador, is now more mobilized than ever in the war against the drug traffickers.